Hi, everyone. This is Mary Curick with Frontrunners Innovate, and I have with me a very special guest. And it's really interesting that we have two people who have roots in Pakistan, and neither of them are in Pakistan right now. We're going to introduce our special guest in a minute, but let me also reintroduce, because she's a familiar face, a co-host of mine, and this is Ambassador Ghazala Khan. And so, Ambassador, welcome. Thank you for being with us. Ambassador Khan represents Pakistan through the Federation of International Gender and Human Rights. Got to get all that right. And so thank you for being with us. And our special guest is Raza Hasan. And I hope I said that correctly. And Raza is an author of a really important piece of work that we want to bring forward to you today. And he's Prosperity for All Nations is the works and a call to action. So we know that there's action on the end of that. We want to get to the place where that creates that action. Really interesting, a founder, an innovator, a think tanker, if you want to call it that, a researcher. We're going to get into the heart and soul of what Raza intends to put out to the world. And a lot of it has to do with bringing governments into a responsible place where they create the environment where economic development can occur and where everything else can roll forward from that is the way that I understand it. So we're going to get into that. So Raza, welcome. I don't want to say too much because I want you to share.
So all right. Yeah, thank you, Mary. Thank you, I guess, Ms. Ghazala Khan. It's a great pleasure to be here. I'm so thrilled to be able to talk to your audience and have an opportunity to speak with you. Again, the thing I want to share with you is the book I have written, Prosperity for All Nations. It is available in pretty much all the formats that are, I guess, available on Amazon, including audio, Kindle, and so on. So I would highly recommend people, if our conversation intrigues them, that please check out the book. If someone is unable to afford the book, somehow contact us through the website and I'll share this book with them as a PDF for free.
Yeah, we'll provide all the links for them to get, because we don't want people to miss it. But let's kind of start a little bit with your background. You want to share a little bit, bring us up to date from where, where the string or the thread led you into the work that you're doing.
All right. So I guess, again, why did I write this book? The main thought was that it kind of started with some conversations with my father. The common myth, I believe, that prevails in the intellectuals in most countries is that somehow the people and the economies of these countries are not as, I guess, subservient or able to, have poverty, basically. So why is there poverty in the world? And people somehow have this notion that, because people are uneducated. Okay, there are other myths also. Some people say it's religion. Some people say it's geography, it's culture, it's sometimes, the surroundings. And I researched this kind of to death to get an answer, to find out what is going on in this world that makes some nations prosperous and the majority of the world is just, poverty stricken. And I think over 5 billion people in this world are living a life where they're not able to contribute fully to their own needs, in addition, to all the other people that exist. Because I think, the best contribution or what exists on this face of this earth, the resource is the human resource. And somehow I believe that people value gold and diamonds more than the human resources. And my goal is to help people understand that human resources is what creates value for all of us if they are put in the right place. So I think that's kind of the fundamental reason for writing the book. And then I guess the book uncovers and sort of helps people understand the myths and then what it takes for any nation to be prosperous.
Great answer. I really think that there's so much depth to what you've discovered that I know there's no short answer to the theme of the solution that you have, but can you give us a little synopsis?
So the synopsis, my discovery is that for any nation and even a human being to be fully productive, and for the nation to be prosperous, the number one thing is justice and equality. Okay, if in any scenario, any location, if a human being is not getting those two things, so justice is something that if it is violated, it becomes almost like a sickness for that individual to live with. Okay, you can be in a relationship where you're not justly or equally treated.
Yeah.
Is going to curtail and limit your ability to do well yourself. And if you don't do well yourself, you're not going to be able to do well for other people. All right. So that's the one fundamental thing. The second fundamental thing is that why do we want equality and justice is just an innate human need. Even if a child is 3-4 years old and they're playing with other children, and if one children cheats, they complain and fight, and they say, I mean, either they're going to fight or they're going to say, I don't want to play with you, you cheat. Okay. So the same innate human need exists throughout our lives. If anytime we feel we're cheated, we become disengaged. Okay, if we don't have any choice. I mean, if we have the choice, we complain, but if we know that we don't have any way to do anything about it, we just say, okay, this is the way it is. It's just like living in a jail cell. This is the way it is. I'm going to live with it. But you are not fully motivated to live to your fullest potential. So that's kind of the synopsis. And then I think the big question I will, again, as the follow-up, if you want to ask, or I can lead us into it, what is required for equality and justice?
I think that's a great question. Go ahead.
All right. So for justice and equality to exist, the opposite of equality and justice is, I guess, injustice that manifests as corruption. Okay. In any country which is poor, they will have, I mean, the poverty and corruption are sort of, I guess, there is a mathematical relationship that they're inversely proportional. Okay, if you have more corruption, you're going to have, or maybe they're directly related. I guess if they have more corruption, you're going to have more poverty. All right. So the thing that I understood is that for corruption or injustice to take place, some people have more power than the majority of the people. So the power is concentrated because for us to do anything wrong, as the saying goes, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? So without power, you cannot do something wrong, okay? I mean, a person just, poor person working in the field and walking on a street does not have the power to do something wrong. And what I studied is that the countries that have prosperity have a government structure. Okay, it's not, you cannot just make rules and say, oh, don't do something wrong. It should be a structure which creates checks and balances so that no one individual has the ability to do something wrong. Okay, it's not about what's written in the book. What's written in the book, people are aware of it, but they're not obligated or they're not forced to live by those rules. Okay, every country I think has the right rules. It is the structure that is missing. So just to give you an example of what I mean by structure, okay, I'll use two examples. I think the US is a tremendous example, and another country, Switzerland, is also, that's where actually I came back yesterday from, is a tremendous country. Okay, I guess let me back up. I guess let me kind of give us sort of more before I get to the solution, the state of why these countries have this concentration of power. The issue is that before democracy came out, the countries were either colonies or they were ruled by dictators. All right. When you're a colonizer, like in UK was for India and Pakistan and the whole world, your goal is to go to those areas, and they say we're doing the same thing in the US, that you extract wealth and take it to your home country. Okay. I mean, they were that, the whole the Tea Party and no representation without tax, or no taxation without representation. These are all the issues of taking money. And there are many books written about money taken away from the whole Indian subcontinent at that time by the British. But that's what they were aiming for, and that was their goal. Same thing if you are a dictator, your goal is to command and control your population, to be subservient and not anybody violate that control that enables that dictator to stay in power. Okay, these are the governments where the people are working for the powerful, not the other way around. The other type of government is where the government is for the people, by the people, of the people, and they're complete opposites. Okay, so the thing I want to explain is what happened with example, most of these colonies in India and Pakistan is like, we know them very closely, and that's what I have analyzed closely in the book, but applies across all the colonies or dictatorships, is that those countries, let's just focus on India as an example, got liberated, Pakistan and India became countries, but the people who were I guess the rulers or the people who took over the British did not know any better, did not think anything better. They just assumed the same role that the British had. They moved into their big, I guess the word in Pakistan is a haveli, or just a large estate. They moved into their same roles with the peons working for them, and they just started acting like those British, okay, that were there before. Opposite. So, and the issue is that same structure remains in these countries. No new laws have been formulated. When a police officer stops you in Pakistan and they're saying you're caught under whatever, section 104, that law was written by some British people in the past. Okay. The issue with this concentration of power was luckily understood by Americans and the forefathers, that they said we're not going to follow and use the same system that the British had developed. They created a completely distributed governance structure, to the extent that the first constitution did not even have the concept of the presidency. Okay, the idea was that we're not going to have one person called attorney. And just to give you the distribution of power in the US, all right, in Pakistan, India, the police, let me back up, sorry, I'm just jumping through thoughts here. The three agencies that provide equality and justice in any country, number one is the police. Okay, when you have a problem, you go to the police. Number two is your judicial system. If you have any issue, you go to court. The third thing is the distribution of tax money. All right, if these three things are not dealt with in a just fashion, you will have concentration of power, and you will have abuse of that power. All right. In Pakistan, India, and most of these countries, the police is centralized, it's controlled by the capital, right? The judiciary is somehow linked to the capital, the positions are nominated, so they are controlled by the people who are in power. And then the taxes are also collected by the central government. They take everything and then they decide who they want to distribute that money to, right? Police, when they're working in a concentrated fashion, they have no allegiance to that local population. In these countries, people are afraid to go to the police when something goes wrong, okay? Because then the police kind of, instead of helping you, becomes your problem, because they're going to try to extract something out of you in trying to help you, all right? If a police officer stops you in Pakistan, there are two things happen. The police officer gets a call from somebody who says, let this person go, this is my cousin or whatever, okay? If that police officer does not let them go, the police officer faces consequences. On the other hand, the person who is, caught, I mean, again, because of their connections, or they end up paying the bribe to the police officer. So one way or the other, both parties benefit because of the structure to just take a bribe. I mean, if I were caught, it's the cost and the consequences are higher than paying some money. If the police officer catches me, they also face worse consequences just than taking some money on the side. And they collect this money, and this money gets distributed as a vertically integrated kleptocracy, where this money flows to the top, okay? When these people on the ground are collecting something, that whole money flows through the whole vertical system, right? So that's kind of now that's kind of the systems. So let me back up. One indication that the money is not distributed equitably is you go to these countries, the cities have great boulevards. I mean, if you go to Islamabad, there are like multicolored lights, on these highways, and flowers and just gardens. You leave that country, that city, you go to the rural area, people have no water, the roads are broken, people are running around without shoes, and it's just like night and day. You do not see this in a just economy. You drive from New York City to LA across the US, same thing for Canada, same thing for most European countries. You will not see that, okay, there is a difference in how people live. Okay, everybody has the same water, same electricity, same roads, same stores. So that is an indication of just where the money is not equitably distributed. Okay, so these are some just I guess the distinctions I wanted to share. Now moving on, sorry, I'm not letting you talk, Mary, but I guess I hope this is worth it.
I'm waiting for the solution.
So the solution is what thing, I'll just use the American model that, and I'll talk about briefly about the Swiss model also. In the US, the taxes are collected at 4 different levels, okay? City, in some cases, county, state, and federal. The monies are collected for a specific purpose that is consumed by that particular population that contributed to that county level tax or the city level tax. Those taxes are controlled by the local people. Anything that needs to be discussed or decided are one way or the other voted by the people. There is transparency in budgeting, even at the federal level. There are no hidden things on how money is handled. Okay, that's kind of one solution. Then they're looking at the police. In the US, I use the example of Minnesota because I'm familiar with it. Minnesota has a population of about 5 million. It is divided up into many cities and many, 87 counties. But just to give you an example, the Twin Cities, which is Minneapolis, St. Paul, is a metroplex of 3 million. 3 million is not a very big population when you compare this to Pakistan, Lahore, or some other city. 3 million people are divided up into 218 small cities. Okay, each city has their own mayor. Each city has their own police. Each city has their own city council. So that, and when you take that 3 million divided by 218, I think it's about 15, 20,000 people. If that 15 or 20,000 people are in charge of the police, then that police knows who they work for. They work for us, not for the president or of the United States. So when they stop me, they will treat me with respect, because I can go to the mayor very easily, or I can go to the city council. The city council meetings are open, and I can bring this person to justice that they didn't treat me in the right way. Okay, that is the structural difference. Okay, it's not about what's written, it's the checks and balances in the system. Now talking about the lack of concentration, even the mayor of 15, 20, 30,000 people does not have autocratic powers. They have a city council. In where I live is Egan, 5 people. The mayor cannot make any unanimous decisions. Okay, it's got to be by the people that are represented. Even the city council is representing 4 different parts of the city. The city council is not representing everybody at the same level. So if the city is A, B, C, D sections, each section has their own members so that everybody's voice is heard. Okay, so that is the distribution of power without any concentration. Now let's talk about the judiciary. In Minnesota, 87 counties means about 50,000 people. All the judges are elected by these local people for their own court systems for 6 years. Still, the judge does not have autocratic decision-making powers, because any critical trial is decided by the jury. Okay, even the jury, when it is selected, it's not like, oh, these 5 people come in, they're going to decide. No, they bring in like 25, 30 people, and out of that, they pick people, and then whomever is selected cannot talk to any outside person outside of the court system. Their phones are taken away. They cannot talk to their family. They cannot read a newspaper. They don't have access to TV. So and nobody knows who these people were going to be before they get there. This is how the distribution of power is maintained. All right. Same again. So I've talked about these three things in the US, okay, which is pretty remarkable. The federal government only has 5 things that they manage. Okay, defense is number 3 thing on their list of amount that is allocated. Now I'm going to use the example of Switzerland. Okay, the remarkable thing about these countries, US has shared this system with Germany and Japan through the Marshall Plan, and you can see nothing is common between these 3 countries. Continent is different, race is different, language is different, culture is different, everything is different, but these 3 countries own 75% of the world global brands, okay, like Coca-Cola, Toyota. I mean, if we talk about China, you will not be able to give me more than a couple of brands that come out of China. Okay, so now let's talk about Switzerland. Switzerland is a country in the world and in Europe as one of the wealthiest countries. Okay, it's a landlocked country, so no port. That's usually considered one of the things that you need to be progressive or economically successful. The land is mountainous. There's very little agricultural land. Okay, it's all mountains there. The third thing is they have very little natural resources, no oil, no gold, nothing of that sort. Okay, but they have divided their 9 million population into 26 cantons, which are sort of their states. The presidency is just a ceremonial position. The president is changed every year. They have no powers besides, in addition to their 7-person governance council. So all the decisions at the presidential level are made by this council, which is representing different cantons and so on. Okay, so there is extreme distribution of power. Then in addition, okay, in the US to discuss issues, there's voting or elections every year. In Switzerland, it's 4 times a year. And any person, if they get 50,000 signatures, can bring a new thing to vote. All right. So, and again, within these cantons, they have, I guess they call these villages. It's just terminology, but there's like small cities, and they have their own, governance structure and taxes and so on. I would highly recommend visiting Switzerland. It works like a Rolex clockwork. It's just amazing how well it works. Okay, I used to think that US is like works, in the best possible way, but Switzerland is even more impressive. Okay, so that is the solution if you don't have, and similar systems are implemented even in the UK. Okay, the UK used a different system for extraction. Within their own country, they have, I think it's called like the city council, or I forgot the exact terminology, but they manage local services and so on. If you don't have that, you're not going to be able to have justice and equality, because some people have power. And then the model should be that, in Pakistan, they have this concept of chowkidar, which is like they get their own private security for a neighborhood. Okay. Mm-hmm. Nobody could ever imagine that person who is the local security guard paid by these people is going to do something against the will of that little entity, right? That's the way the government should also be managed and handled. These people are our servants. In Pakistan, they act like they're some royalty. Okay, when these powerful people are on the road, they shut the road, and poor people are treated like dirt. Okay, so I think that's kind of the thing I want people to understand. My study again in this book shows that there is nothing else that can be done. And I studied this. Why I thought of this is that I studied how an organization should be designed to achieve higher levels of productivity. And I said, if the organization can change, this should be applicable to the nations also. And that's why I, made this quest to learn that. Same thing with Japan. Okay, they have 66 prefectures. Switzerland has 24. I guess it's called the Bundes something, which are their states. Same structures are there. So go ahead, Mary. I guess I wanted to wrap this here.
Yeah, I wanted to give Ambassador Khan a chance for a comment before we end up, but I think that it is important work. And I think that it's great that you put it in a book format so that it's easy to pass along to other people and maybe start to integrate into the right places. So Ambassador Khan, I'm going to shut up and let you have a moment here.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was a really nice intro of the book and the idea which is in the mind of the author. Mr. Raza explained it very well. And everyone knows it because it is embedded into the whole society since 1947 when the Pakistan was Pakistan get its independence, and we inherited the British rule and we followed it because no one at that moment tries to make the changes, and it's coming from generation to generations. And even now the youngsters are still, because they are inheriting these things from their own parents. Even the politicians and the politics is inherited from the families, and it is revolving around the same people since 50, 60 years. And we need to work on that. For that, we need to empower, encourage, and teach our youngsters and bring the new blood in the politics, in the society, in the policies, because that elite class which is working since 50, 60 years, and they are just transferring their powers and their positions to their youngsters, and even implanted the same ideas in their mind. So it needs a lot of work. And I hope that this book may bring a change in the same structure. I wish him a best of luck for that.
Right. So I think, just if I may add, what I want to do is, again, I am a big believer in the power of the internet because it helps people connect. I mean, Facebook has 3 million or 3 billion people, sorry. So first thing is, please, again, my goal is I've created a nonprofit, so I'm not here to make any money on this book. That's not the goal. The goal is to create this awareness, because I personally, actually, surprisingly, I did not see this awareness even in the US. Okay, I had an opportunity to spend time with a couple of congressmen for a trip to Washington, D.C. If you ask a normal US person, what is the reason for prosperity here in the US, people don't know the answer. Okay, and then, so I think the goal is that this should be made a well-known fact throughout the societies, that this is what's required. Okay, you cannot have concentration of power in governance. So whatever all of you can do, okay, to spread the word. And what I have done is I have launched this Prosperity Web, which is a web-based organization to connect people just like Facebook to deal with this. I mean, we are all suffering from it. Okay, even if you are an American, you are suffering because of this corruption, because this reduces the people to the level that they are better off as a suicide bomber than to be living. Okay, they lose hope. So if we raise people to their fullest potential, okay, it's gonna benefit everybody. We're all suffering from it. We are spending $1.7 trillion a year on defense spending, which is a complete waste of money just because we are scared of each other. We are scared of each other because we have poor people who from time to time are gonna act crazily, because you cannot expect a person to act justly in an unjust society. Okay, that's my quote. So with that, I guess we have 5 more minutes here, I'm assuming. So anything else?
We've got to get ready for another
okay.
conversation. But what I want to say is, and you ended that beautifully. I love that quote. Actually, you can't expect people to act justly in an unjust society. And I think that's just the thought that we kind of leave with, that kind of would help us motivate to go forward. I can ask you one last question and then we'll have to bug out. But who do you need to help you move forward? I mean, it feels like a movement that you're doing.
Right. Yeah. So I think the first thing we need is the ability to raise funds. Okay. And I think I would like, again, the goal would be that somehow the US government understands and the officials understand, so they can sponsor some of this, I guess, awareness project. the goal right now is to help create this awareness. And this is, like a global project. I need financial help. I need the word to get out, because I think there is, in the US, about $1 trillion are given to charity. Okay. I'm not trying to make money, but I want this to be changed so that we can all enjoy the whole world. Okay. The world has a lot to offer, but 80% of it is curtailed because of this concentration of power and corruption.
I think that's perfect. In this world where we have a lot of organizations that deal with peace, and I'm actually getting ready to interview another person this afternoon who's with a peace organization. I think this is a good slide in. This is a good meeting point where peace can exist. You're going to have that level of environmental support for that peace to occur. And so it seems like a good dovetail. So there may be some connections there for you, Raza. So we'll work on that. So I want to say thank you to you very much for your words of wisdom and your help in trying to do the right thing with getting people to wake up to what's happening. And Ambassador Khan, always a pleasure. And so I'll look forward to talking to you next on the next conversation that we have. So let's end with this. We'll give everybody that's watching right now, if you're watching this on YouTube, go to www.frontrunnersinnovate.com, where you'll get this interview, but you'll also get the links that he's providing, ways to find the book, ways to engage with him if you need a speaker or if you want to see about purchasing in bulk or something like that. So we'll make sure that you have all the right connecting points. So thank you again, everybody. And I'll say goodbye.
Again, I hope we can make this world a better place with everybody's help. Thank you.